Yo, 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 what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormy B-Man, and I am back. And I am back with another Kung Fu film focus. And that is for today, Saturday, August 15th, 2020. And we're going over a classic film from 1973 called When Taekwondo Strikes, also known as Sting of the Dragon Masters. This Kung Fu gem is a film that was made by Golden Harvest Studios, Hong Kong, the same studio that put out the Bruce Lee films. And it features a one-time appearance by Grandmaster Jun Rei, who was the Grandmaster of Taekwondo here in America. Jun Rei, also known as Master Rei, starred in this film one time, his one-time effort. And he was a great friend of Bruce Lee, who actually got him this starring role. As Bruce Lee was finishing up his first international film, Enter the Dragon, and he was going to be leaving Hong Kong. He knew this. So what he had did was he reached out to one of his good friends. They had known each other since the early 60s through various tournaments and karate and martial arts exhibitions. This is how they became acquainted. And Bruce and Master Rei developed a great friendship. And Jun Rei also assisted Lee with his kicks in martial arts. He was the one to help Bruce perfect his Taekwondo-like kicks that became part of his repertoire. But for this film, he convinced head producer Raymond Chow to give this martial arts master a chance in front of the camera. The film also stars Angela Mao Ying, who is definitely one of my favorites as the heroines of Hong Kong. She did tremendous justice to the martial arts as she was featured in her films as a killer, you know, as far as her martial arts prowess. There was a little fight behind the scenes whether or not she would get the top billing for this film or Jun Rei, Master Rei. Lee pushed for Master Rei, of course, because he felt that with his martial reputation that he deserved that honor. However, just days before he died, Lee called Master Rei and said that he had been given top billing for the film. The film was all edited and ready to go. And just a few days later, Bruce Lee passed away. And when the film opened, Angela Mao was given top billing. So even after death, Raymond Chow was sticking it to Bruce Lee. But it didn't take away from his performance in this film. A slight man, possibly 5'6". Master Rei actually looked very good on film with his martial arts that were featured in this film. And the plot of When Taekwondo Strikes is another of those familiar themes where the Japanese are the bad guys. But here is a synopsis of the plot from Joy Sales. During the period when Korea was occupied by Japan, Bansan Karate House, one of the secret organizations, was set up in order to crack down on the Korean patriots. So this film was set in the era where the Japanese occupancy of Korea. Master Ray playing Lee Chung-tong, a Taekwondo grandmaster who was the leader of the patriots and resistance, and he planned to rebuild their country. He operated from a Catholic church disguised as a gardener. Mary, the priest's niece of the church, becomes a student of his. On one particular day, one of the patriots and students of Lee Chung-tong's, Kim Chung-cha, tried to hide in the church as the Basan's Japanese warriors chased him in hot pursuit. It was there that Lee Chung-tong was drawn in as these Japanese who invaded the church in pursuit of his student and looking to bully the priest and the patrons of the church. Thus the story began for this film. That student was played by Carter Wang Ta, who we've seen in many films. I've also featured Carter in some films of his that I have covered, and he is the first student in this photograph that I have pictured here. He is the first student on the left. Carter Wang and Angela Mao starred in a number of features together, and their films always did very well in Hong Kong. The two of them being great martial artists behind the scenes as well as on film. Carter Wang was a Taekwondo practitioner, so this role suited him just fine. Also pictured in the center there would be one of Master Ray's actual real-life students, Ann Winston, who starred in this film with him, and they were like a package deal when they were brought to Hong Kong to play in this film. Her martial arts that were featured in a couple of scenes here was actually pretty good. This was before Cynthia Rothrock and so many other American actors who came over as the years went on. But this was 1973. Bruce Lee had just died. This film was finished just before his death, and his presence was actually felt on set as he visited the set often. There's also photos of him behind the scenes taken on the set of When Taekwondo Strikes. This was one of the films that was not as popular as you might think. It caught on a little bit later, and one of the interesting notes about it is because there were real martial artists featured in this film and not the typical Hong Kong movie stars. That might have been what held the film's box office back a little bit, because the stars were unknown, like Master Ray. But once you watch the film, you could just see from the choreography by Sammo Hung that these people were very capable in their skill set. The film also starred new producer with Golden Harvest Studios, Andre Morgan, who was about 22, 23 years old at the time that this film was made. And he's playing the elder statesman priest of the film. You can see him pictured here with Ann Winston. She played his niece in the film. And they dyed his hair gray to make him look like an old. It was a bit of a stretch because Andre Morgan was so young at the time. If you talk to him today, Andre Morgan actually looks like this now. It is like funny because he has a different haircut of today. Of course, that was 1973, but he still has the beard And his hair is actually this color now, which is amazing to reminisce and go back and see him looking like that at that time. Ann Winston, her martial arts skills in this particular scene in the church were on display, and she really showed her wares and showed her capability. It's a shame that we find out just a few years after making this film that she committed suicide and she's no longer around, but at least she's immortalized on this film set here, and her fight scenes were very respectable at the time. One of the familiar faces in this film is also the veteran actor Chen Yue-sang, who's always playing a bad guy, and in this film it's no different. He's one of the Japanese that followed Carter Wang to the church and is looking to pursue him and arrest him for being a patriot against the Japanese regime. Chen was always a guy that you would love to hate, and he always seems to get beaten up by the females in the movies. And it's always noted that he's a lecherous sort on camera, right? He's always looking to touch the women in violation or assault or something like that. And then they typically commence to beating his behind. So that's something that it was always noteworthy about his appearances in the film. You'd always look to see him and Sammo get beat up by the female stars of the films. I think Sammo liked to show the female martial prowess being dominant against the lecherous bad guys. And his choreography always, it worked to the advantages of the female action stars that he worked with, particularly Angela Mao Ying. He always choreographed her fight scenes very well because she was a very slight woman, but the type of choreography he would map out for her would make her look powerful, even in her small stature, as well as very effective and total technique in what she was doing. It was amazing to watch Angela handle so many action scenes where in one take you might see 100 and something moves in a take, and it was just breathtaking to see that she could handle that type of choreography. Master Sammo choreographed scenes for him and also collaborated with Sammo to make sure that authentic Taekwondo was featured in the film. This is one of the Golden Harvest's better productions at the time. It had better set quality and also the locations that they captured some of the footage. During the film, Master Ray's character, Lee Chung-tong, comes to Angela's character, who she's working in a restaurant as a Chinese immigrant. And they become friends, and they both have issues with the Japanese. But when he finds out that she's a fighter as well, he's more than happy to assist her, and she pledges an allegiance to he, with their common enemy being the Japanese. There are several scenes where you get to see them together, and you can see that as they're acting, they're speaking as if, you know, there are things that they want to tell one another, but they don't discuss their personal matters. But it becomes when Angela Mao's mom is killed by the Japanese that she then definitely forms a union with Lee Chung-tong to go after the Japanese villains. And that's where the film really picks up its action. This is one of the few films where you get to see Angela show emotion, you know, crying and things at the death of her mom in film. And it's a little bit different from some of her other films like Lady Whirlwind or Hapkido, And when you get to see her fight like this in this film, and you see her grieve over her mom, you could tell that she was more than just a martial fighter. The young lady was an actress. She could handle what the script gave her on the page. There were more fighters in this film that you can't take for granted. As I mentioned, we had Sammo Hung, who also does the choreography, and he plays one of the lead Japanese villains. And then you have also a Japanese fighter, Kenji Kazama, okay, who was also known in a number of Japanese films in the early 70s, and an American collaboration called The Killer Elite, where he played in that film. And then we also Wang, who was famous for being in some of the other Golden Harvest films at the time. Wang In-sik, and also Gam K-Chu. Gam K-Chu also played in Golden Harvest and Shaw Brothers films, and the two of them are featured in this photo right here. Wang In-sik is on the left, and Gam K-Chu is on the right. They were in films with Golden Harvest, and Gam K-Chu also played in Shaw Brothers films, usually playing baddies. These two guys, their martial prowess was pretty good. Gam must have had a Taekwondo background, because I noted over the years of watching him in films, his kicks were exceptional. When he was in Five Fingers of Death with Lo Lei, that was one of the things I acknowledged about him right away, is when you could tell the real martial artists, when they use their kicks on screen, they have a certain snap, pop, and a little bit of a it's their timing of how they can get their kicks off. So Wang In-sik was one of the best kickers on film. I think that his kicks were closest to Bruce Lee's, even though Bruce Lee might have been a little bit faster, but Wang had very exceptional kicking skills. And you could see him also in Bruce Lee's Way of the Dragon. You could see him in Hapkido, Jackie Chan's Dragon Lord. He'd been around a long time. And he was on the scene before Wong Ching Lee, who came along as another Korean martial artist who was spectacular as the years would go by. In this particular film, the Japanese baddies finally get a hold of Lee Chung-tong, and they take him into captivity. Okay, he was a wanted guy, and they decided to go after him, and they were able to get him. But he didn't go without a fight. But once they captured him, they were trying to torture him and get him to release the names of all the patriots so that they could go about capturing all the patriots and end their lives. But of course, Lee Chung-tong would not give in to that. And he made certain that the Japanese, it would take them by the numbers to apprehend him. But they did. They finally took him into captivity. And it was then when Angela Mao's character realized that she was going to get the rest. She was going to have to get the rest of his students and his patriots and bring them into the action to rescue Lee Chung-tong. And so with that, she made her dedication of going after them, rounding up his students, and making sure that they could find out where Lee was being held captive. Some of them were apprehensive, the students, and some were ready to go join in, but they just wanted to make sure that the teacher didn't scold them because he had told them to remain in obscurity, because they needed to wait for the proper time to attack the Japanese. One of the things about this film is that the action scenes were shot a little longer, and the film it plays better as a result. Because sometimes when you had long scenes of kung fu action, it didn't play very well. But in this instance, it did. When Taekwondo strikes, it gave its best with martial arts, with the action scenes. And Sammo can be credited that alone, by himself. I see we got a few people out there watching us. And it's nice that you guys decided to come in, but this is, I'm taking my time with When Taekwondo Strikes, because this film should have done a lot better than it did, especially with the talent that was on hand. And I do think that I summed it up in a nutshell when I said that a lot of these actors outside of Angela Mao and Carter Wang and Sammo in this film, they were unknowns. And so being unknown, you know, the box office audiences, they didn't take to that. They wanted to see the familiar faces. But that was one of the things about the Hong Kong audiences at the time. They really believed in only the people that they knew. You know what I mean? And that's how films suffered as a result when they didn't take to the foreign actors. And they considered Jun Ray, Master Ray, a foreigner, and his student, Ann Winston. Ann was really a spectacular martial artist in her own right. Just from the couple of fight scenes that she had in this film, she could kick very well. You know, she showed power and snap. Very unfortunate what happened with her. I remember reading about her having committed suicide. I maybe stumbled upon that information about 4 or 5 years ago. So it was just recently that I found that out. But it was like around 1976 or so that she committed suicide. So it wasn't very long after the film was made, just a couple of years. And whatever was troubling the young lady, it's very unfortunate that that was her fate. Hate to see that, hate to hear about it, you know, but it's what happened with her. Ken Kajami was a Japanese actor and martial artist who played in a number of the Toho films from the 60s and early 70s. And he also is very familiar with the Sunichiba Japan Action Club. It's like they've made films and done stunts together over the years and are very familiar. This is kind of like what you were going to see, what Bruce Lee had an idea for before he passed away. He really wanted to bring real martial artists into the films. And this is kind of what his legacy is off of bringing Master Ray in for this film. And I guess that Master Ray decided not to pursue a career in martial art films, or it could have been that Raymond Chow didn't think he was bankable box office. But because of his martial prowess, he was far better than a number of the men in the industry at that time. I would have loved to have had an interview, but Master Ray passed away, unfortunately, in the early 2000s. And he also had a allegiance and affiliation with Muhammad Ali, Master Ray. He taught Muhammad Ali some Taekwondo techniques. Many people aren't aware of that, but it is true. It's a fact for you trivia buffs out there that Jun Ray, the Grandmaster of Taekwondo in America, taught Muhammad Ali martial arts. So yes, he did. Again, as I had mentioned, that they captured Master Ray, Lee Chung Tong, in the film, and they tortured him somewhat, which is leading toward the third act of the film. In this sequence, we get to see that's when his students come in to try to help save him. And he warned them again. He was like, why did you guys come out of hiding? You were supposed to stay in hiding, this, that, and the other. You know, the scolding, typical Sifu scolding over the students who have been disobedient. But in this case, they were trying to save his life. And so that leads to the big fight and showdown in the finale and the third act of the film, where, you know, Lee Chung Tong and Angela Mao, they both go in and take on the Japanese in a stellar third act fight. One of the things that you get to see in this third act too is Taekwondo kicks by Master Ray as he takes on these Japanese villains. You can see his kicks are executed with power and precision. Some multiple kicks to the face, to the chest. He was really doing it for the film. And Sammo, playing one of the villains in the film, who was a veteran stuntman in his own right, as well as action choreographer, his response and reaction to being hit and everything also sells the power. That's one of the great things about these guys that made these type of films. There was so much going on that it's like you have to be able to be a person who watched tons of these films and pay attention to the choreography to see the elitist in these various men's prowess. It's like I can watch it all day long because this is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like this is what they bring. But it was just amazing to see Master Ray working it out with these guys in this film. Here I have a shot of him going after Ken Kajami, and it's like I said, for his only film, Master Ray produced a great classic. I'm gonna tell you, When Taekwondo Strikes is the type of film that you can sit down and watch. It again, it's another one of those type films where the Japanese are the bad guys, and in this case, it's the Koreans who are oppressed by the Japanese. Films like this often tell the story, but people don't always feel comfortable with what the story and history is behind some of this fare. The Japanese were brutal, and their regime and empire, it crushed a lot of families and hurt a lot of people. So when you see these films, hey, it is what it is. It's the truth. But made, of course, from the Chinese perspective, which will always make the Japanese look even worse, right? Even if they were worse, it's like they are going to depict them as the monsters. So this is kind of what it was. But I'll say this. When they had films like this, at the end, when they have the end fights or whatever, you could see that the Japanese fighters were really superior fighters and stuff like that. What they want to do is beat them with intelligence, ingenuity, outsmarting them, stuff like that, and throwing in a little bit of technique. But that's the narrative. That's what was driven with these stories. And I enjoy being able to understand that dichotomy, because most people wouldn't. They just overlook that. But another basher. These films are always considered bashers because it's hand and foot with no weapons primarily. And even though the Japanese were known to have the katana, there's not much of that in this film as well. It's like a lot of kung fu action and karate action, which is what I prefer. I like a great kung fu karate matchup, you know, and this is one of the films that in the early 70s, it really set a tone. And when you have Angela Mao Ying in a film, you can't go wrong, man. The sister always brought it. She brought an intensity to her fight scenes, and was never looking sloppy on film or anything. Always looked like she could handle herself and be very capable. Carter Wong Ta, he's just here up above my head here in this shot on this poster. He took a third centered role in this film. He wasn't a secondary character in this film. Usually he would play secondary to Angela Mao, but the way they filmed this movie, it was Master Ray who was the secondary role, but even though he was the lead of the film, Angela Mao's character is the heart of the film. And the villains that they had with Sammo and Wang and Sik and Kenji Kajama and Gam Gakyu, all of those guys, they did a great job as well. Jupiter B has come in. He says, that's a cult classic. He said, love that in return, Cripple Avengers. Yeah, man. Listen, this film right here, I'll tell you guys, I have it on VHS, I have it on DVD, and it's a great film. If they put it out on Blu-ray, I'll get it on Blu-ray. It's just one of those classics. But the DVD I was able to get a hold of is an international copy. It's actually from the UK, so it's a widescreen print. The color's great. I don't even need a Blu-ray upgrade for it looks very well. My old VHS copy of it is a little faded, but it's a great movie, man. I love it. You guys are out there, not much conversation going back and forth, but I see I got at least 6 people out there watching. Anybody got any questions for me on this one? Because this was a simple one, and it was one that I thought that I would just talk about simply because it is a classic in the genre. It's not a Shaw Brothers film, but a Golden Harvest film. But it's a damn good one, man. It's a damn good one. You can watch this one from beginning to end and really enjoy it. There's some funny dub dialogue in there too when it comes down to, you know, the Koreans and the Japanese talking about each other and saying certain things and their swear words and stuff like that. Kind of engaging. I enjoyed it. Jupiter B says, Stormy, I'm going to definitely check this out. Your last recommendation was excellent. I love Duel to the Death. Can't believe I never saw it before. Thanks. Hey, Jupiter B, that's what I'm here for, bro. I will never tell you of a bad film. Stormy don't do the bad ones, okay? They're out there. But the ones I recommend to you, believe you me, you'll enjoy watching them. Just like if you've never seen this one, it is a classic. It's one of those classics that, and like I said, it's from the Bruce Lee era. It was like, I mean, like I said, it was all edited and finished up just a few days before he passed away. And it's starring his good friend, Master Jun Ray. It's like, you can't get any better than that, man. D-Style, what's going on with you? I see you out there, bro. Talking about these Kung Fu films, D-Style, Dragon Style. You got to know about these. If you think you know Kung Fu, you got to be here for the Kung Fu film focus, D-Style. No excuses. You can't have Dragon in your name and not know about some Fu. Yes, sir. Great stuff, man, though. It's like these films, I love them, man. Jupiter B says Duel to the Death was fire. Yeah. Hey, man, Duel to the Death, I remember the very first time I saw it, and I hope that this was your experience, Jupiter B, when you saw it. When you saw how they had the special effects with them, of course they're on wires, right? But the technique of the wire effect, how they were spinning in the air and everything and working those swords and everything, and the fast cuts that would make the action seem more heightened than it was excellent, man. Duel to the Death was an excellent film. In that film, you had Japanese swordplay, you had Shaolin Kung Fu, you had ninjas. Man, you had the whole smorgasbord there, bro. And that was good stuff, Duel to the Death. In high quality film. High quality, you know. D-Style says, I'm a karate guy. Okay, karate man. You know, I'm going to be doing some Sonny Chiba films pretty soon, too. There's like that. Sonny Chiba was a karate guy, you know. And he was a student of the great Oyama Mas, you know. Yeah. So, man, but Duel to the Death was an excellent film. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Jupiter B. If you got a chance to catch that one, check that out, man. And yeah, you could really enjoy it. And I have a recommendation, not just this one, When Taekwondo Strikes, but this one would be for Jupiter B, since he seems to be tied into these and enjoying my recommendations. Check out The Bloody Fist with Chen Sing. Okay, The Bloody Fist with Chen Sing. That's it, you know. When Taekwondo Strikes, also known as Sting of the Dragon Masters and The Bloody Fist. Check out those two, and I guarantee you, next time we come around, you'll be saying, yeah, Stormy, that was another good one for me. Yeah. The Black Banter has joined. He says, Stormy B, man, respect to you, brother, with another classic Kung Fu movie. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This film right here, man, When Taekwondo Strikes, you can't go wrong when you got Angela Mao Ying, man. She's never really been in a bad film. She really hasn't. And in this film, you see one-time martial arts grandmaster Jun Rei in his one and only Kung Fu film. Kung Fu was at its apex, you know, for them to be able to bring a master like Jun Rei out. Bruce Lee was able to get him this film role. Yes, sir. And Jupiter B says, yeah, it was great quality, especially for that era. It had ninjas, samurais, explosions, had everything. Yeah, talking about Duel to the Death. I'm telling you, man, that's a great one. And that was by this same film company, Golden Harvest. But a few years later, I think Duel to the Death, what did I say that was like, 1980, something like that. I forget the year exactly, but you know, I had it for you on the show because I got so much going on in my mind right now. I got Kung Fu stuff in my mind, I got boxing stuff in my mind, and I got some food on my mind. So you know it must be time to do a dining dish pretty soon again too. But I just, you know, these Kung Fu film joints, man, I like to roll them out for you guys because I have hundreds of them in my collection. And I just like talking about them. I like reviewing them. You know, it's just something I really enjoy. D-Style says, little known fact, I practiced karate for 8 years. That's good stuff, D-Style. I practiced a lot when I was young myself, man. I practiced probably from the time I was 7 years old till the time I was like 16, 17, something like that. Yeah, man. I used to be really good with my kicks, man. Really good. Jupiter B says, The Bloody Fist. Got it. Yeah, that's Chen Sing. It's a little more crude than this film, but it's kind of what they were doing back there because I think The Bloody Fist is from 1972. And that's a film that I'll do a review on as well because it's Chen Sing. Chen Sing is the Charles Bronson of the Hong Kong film industry. D Style says karate was an elective in 6th grade at my middle school. Okay. Akando Sami Hassan says Kung Fu films got the dopest titles. Some of them got the dopest action too. D Style says, so I came in late, but does Taekwondo invade Kung Fu? No, what happens in this film, D Style, the Taekwondo is featured by the Korean patriots in the film, and the Japanese oppression and suppression of the Korean patriots. So it's like the Taekwondo strikes back. They're fighting back against the Japanese regime that is settled in their province, and so they're fighting back against the oppressive Japanese. So that's what that is. Jupiter B says, D-Style, your school was dope. And Black Banner says, she's a legend for sure. Talking about Angela Mao? Yes, sir. Angela Mao was something else, man. And she runs a Mandarin restaurant in New Jersey now. So you could actually, if you live in New Jersey or anywhere near New Jersey, you can look up her restaurant. I have the name of it. I will put it on my next show if I can remember to do that. But people are surprised when they go into her restaurant because she actually works in there. She's not just the owner. She's the owner and operator there. She's working. And you walk in there, you cannot mistake her. She still looks the same, just a little bit older, but she doesn't look her age. Angela is probably 70, 75, something like that, 76. But she probably looks like she's 40 or 50, you know. She doesn't look as old as she is. Yes, sir. So, Akando Sami Hassan says, facts. D-Style says, gotcha. Yeah, man. This is one of my favorite films. I love it. I have favorites from Golden Harvest and favorites from Shaw Brothers. And my Shaw favorites are not the ones that you guys always call out, like the Venom films and stuff like that. I have a variety of Shaws that I enjoy, but I enjoy their basher films like Duel of the Iron Fist or Five Fingers of Death, Chinese Boxer with Jimmy Wang Yu. I like those films first. And then like films like Seven Blows of the Dragon. Love those films. So yeah, always, you know, looking for these films and the action, the choreography, everything is like really, really, you know, it's hard to explain if you're not a martial art film fan. But if you guys out there love Kung Fu films, you know what I'm saying. It's like you could watch these films over and over because of the technique, the acrobatics, the athleticism of these fighters. When they were doing these films, they used to do so many moves in a take. They would number the moves. So it's like it was easy to get 200 moves in a take. And the 200 moves would be both the offender and the defender. You know, it's like both people, choreography. 100 moves for this guy, 100 moves for that guy. So that's a 200 move shot. Action and reaction. That took time. You know, sometimes a fight scene would take almost a month to film. You know, on some of the more shabby produced films, it's like they'll film a movie in 3 weeks and it'd be done. You know, just do something and like, okay, cut, go to the next scene. But no, some of these choreographers were real perfectionists. And so when they did get into that, they had to make sure that it looked right. A miss was a miss. You know, you have to get the right angle to make sure that the hit looks like it land. Stuff like that, you know, to get down to precision. It made a difference. Kondo Sami Hassan says Five Fingers of Death was fire. Yeah, man, listen. Next to my Bruce Lee film, Fist of Fury, Five Fingers of Death is like right there, man. One of my favorites, man. I love that film. And it's like the sound effects, you know, when they hit somebody. That's one of the things that really stand out about Kung Fu films, man. When they hit somebody and they make that sound, you know, it's whoever thought of that shit was a genius. And they pick up weapons and stuff, and it's like, you know, making the noise and sound effects, man. You know, growing up as a kid watching that stuff, man. Again, like I said it so many times, that was our Avengers and Batmans and stuff like that. Because them guys, you know, where else you going to see a dude with 2 or 3 swords in his belly, tie his guts up, and then still keep fighting? It's like fighting 100 dudes. It's like, these movies were made just for us to enjoy that, man. And if you didn't enjoy it, to hell with you, man. We go to the store, get some popcorn, man, and sit up there and eat, be watching that, man. It was great, man. And also, you know, as the Kung Fu films got more like intricate with like styles, right? And I'm gonna do a show on the styles of Kung Fu films, because there's different styles. It's like you get bashers, then you get swords play, then you get like ninja films, and there's subgenres, right? But when they get into the films, when they do the animal styles and stuff, and the guy be like, my monkey technique, you know? It's like, and then the other guy say, wait till my crane style, you know? It's like, man, they call out their styles before they start fighting and shit. And then it's like a 30-second preview where the guy goes, Shaolin technique. I love it, man. It's like, hey, at least he telling us what style he doing. We don't have to guess. Rolling all on the ground and stuff, man. Y'all don't understand, man. Y'all don't understand. Stormy B Man know these movies like the back of his hand, though. It's like I can watch these movies, man, and tell you, oh yeah, this movie was made in this year, and it stars that guy, and you know this guy starred in several other films and was with this guy. Yeah, that's how you know it, man. That's how you know it. Lala D is out there. She says, Stormy, what's good with you, sister? Glad to see you, Lala D. Talking about these good old Kung Fu films. Kung Fu. Yep. But this one right here, y'all, it's worth checking out. Seriously, When Taekwondo Strikes, it's not a bad film at all. Like I said, it's Master Jun Ray's one and only Kung Fu film appearance. But he was a great friend of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee got him the starring role in this film, and he didn't disappoint. Angela Mao Ying was a great choice to have as a co-star in this film, and the role that she plays it very well. You know, very respectable. She was my crush when I was a little boy, Angela Mao, because she could kick butt, and I thought she was cute. Some people didn't think she was cute. There were some other, you know, Hong Kong actresses that they weren't necessarily fighters on film, but they were Hong Kong actresses that some people found that was more attractive or pretty or whatever. But for whatever reason, I liked Angela. Angela was something else to me, man. I was like, man, I want to meet her one day. I should go to New Jersey and go to that restaurant and order some pork over rice. So yeah. But yeah, you guys, you know, this is what it is. When Taekwondo Strikes is an actioner that features great martial arts fight scenes featuring Taekwondo and karate, because the Japanese are supposedly representing from the angle of karate, right? So that's what they're doing. But it's a great look into some kung fu. So if you guys want to check this movie out, I don't think you'll be disappointed. You know, this is Stormy B, man. That's pretty much all I got for you guys this afternoon. I appreciate you stopping by, checking me out. And until we come back with another one, I'll catch you on the other side. Lala D says, I think Hyphy likes her too, Stormy. Yeah, I seen Hyphy use her face as an avatar. Yeah, absolutely. You guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And Stormy will catch up with you.